Welcome to my review of the EagleTac D25A clicky titanium. Specifically, the 2015 version is the one that I have in my hands. First, I want to make a case for why I think that AA platformed lights are the best for everyday carry lights. And the reason that I think they are is because of the ubiquity of the AA battery. You're going to find them like in every remote, in every home, in every waiting room. You just can't say the same thing for a CR123. And one of the reasons that I carry gear is because I anticipate situations where I might need, a flashlight, for example. And I also see situations where I might need sustainability. For instance, in a natural disaster or something, I might need to keep my light going for an extended period of time. You really just don't have that much sustainability with a CR123 light. Additionally, most AA lights in this form factor can also be run on AAA batteries, which are also ubiquitous. So in my flashlight right now, I actually don't have a AA. I actually have a little piece of tin foil and a AAA, and I'm still able to run it. My light still has all of its modes. You get more performance out of these CR123 lights, but you just don't have the sustainability that you do with AA lights. And this leads us into why I chose this light as my personal everyday carry. And the reason is because you get the best of both worlds. It can use both of these lights, batteries, the AA and the AAA, and it can also use what I just put in it, which is a 14500 lithium ion battery, which actually has a higher voltage when fully charged than a CR123. And that does make a big difference. And at the end of the video, I'm going to do a comparison of this light using the 14500 and using a AA. So with this light, you're not forced to choose between sustainability and performance. You get both. Next, I'd like to talk about construction, durability, and form factor. And I'm going to make another case for the AA battery as an everyday carry platform. And that's on the basis of it's much thinner than a CR123 light. And if you are into EDCing a lot of gear, you will know that width is one of the most critical dimensions on all the gear that you carry. It's the thing that you notice the most. And that's no exception with this flashlight. I've carried this CR123 EagleTac light for a good while, and I did notice the width significantly more than these AA ones. You just notice it more when you sit down and when you're moving around. The AA lights are just way less obtrusive. I don't really even notice it's there, but it is there when I need it. And I'm really happy with this light. I love clicky lights. I love the one-handed operation of them and the fact that you can cycle through modes with just one hand. The pocket clip works well for me. It carries really deep. I love that the button is recessed. You think that would be a no-brainer, but I've carried the 4.7s Preons, and their buttons aren't recessed, and when you're EDCing those, every once in a while you'll be like, oh, why is my thigh burning? And then you find out your light got turned on when you sat down or something. You don't have that problem with this light. One hit that I will make on it is they have increased the width of the head of the light as compared to the non-titanium version. And, I just made that case for how important width is in your EDC items. However, I do theorize that they might have increased the size of the head of the titanium version, the 2015 version, due to thermal management, because it does have the capability to run the 14500 battery, which is a higher voltage fully charged than the CR123. So I kind of give them a pass on that and say that there probably was a reason for that, and I'm getting a lot of performance for that extra width, and it's still, you know, thinner than the CR123 lights by a wide margin. Another thing I love that I didn't think that I was going to love is the glow-in-the-dark button. I just at first thought it was kind of a gimmick, and I wasn't really making the purchase based on that at all. However, that button, I noticed it stayed lit like all night long, you know, 12 hours, 10 hours. I could see it in a dark room. And I thought that that was really awesome, and it inspired me to use the grooves that they had machined in the light to add more glow-in-the-dark material. So I mixed some strontium aluminate with some resin, and I put it in between those grooves. And now this light, I can see it all night long in the dark, and it's just awesome. I took it backpacking in the Grand Canyon for 5 days, and it was really a good modification, being able to see my light all night. In terms of durability, I really couldn't be happier with this series of lights by EagleTac. This one I've carried extensively, the most out of all of them. It's literally been slung through the mud. It's always turned on when I needed it to. All of its modes have always worked, and it's just been great. And as I said earlier, I actually carried this version backpacking in the Grand Canyon, and I had it on for hours and hours at a time, and it always worked. So I really can't say enough good things about the durability that I've experienced from these lights. One of the things that I was interested in learning about this flashlight when I was thinking of buying it was its mode retention using the 14500 battery. Because on EagleTac's website, they just state that it is compatible with the 14500. But compatibility may just mean that using the battery doesn't damage the voltage regulators and things like that. It doesn't necessarily mean that the flashlight retains all of its modes that it has when using a AA battery. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to determine if it retains all of its modes using a light-dependent resistor and a microcontroller. So essentially I'll be able to hook this up to my computer and measure the light intensity based on how much light is hitting this light-dependent resistor. This is my setup to determine this flashlight's mode retention when using a 14500 battery. So you can see we're reading all zeros right now, and I'm going to go ahead and actuate the light, and we'll see that we start reading values. And as I turn the modes up, it goes up. So I'm going to prepare a spreadsheet using this setup so that we can determine which modes this flashlight retains when using the 14500 battery. Before we get into the spreadsheet and what modes this light retains with the 14500 battery, I want to briefly just mention that light-dependent resistors are very non-linear. So this experiment isn't going to show the light intensity that this flashlight produces. It's just going to show differences in light intensity. So it's just going to show that we retain modes or do not retain modes. Here are the test results from using our light sensor setup. And from examining the tables, you can see that we essentially do lose one mode when we use the 14500 battery. Basically, high goes to turbo in both the moonlight mode setting and the low mode setting. These differences right here are well within the noise range. There's no detectable difference between high and turbo when using the 14500 battery. Whereas with the AA, you can tell a difference between all 4 of the modes. And this is just a little graph I made that I wanted to talk about for a second. So when we're using low levels of light intensity with our light sensor, it's fairly linear with the sensor value that we are getting from our computer. But when we increase the light intensity to very high levels, we don't get a corresponding increase with our sensor value. So when you have a lot of light coming out of your flashlight with this setup, you're only going to get a small change in sensor value. So to illustrate this and give you guys an idea of the difference in the lumens between the highest mode with a AA and the highest mode of the 14500, I've taken some footage which we'll cut to right now. Turbo mode using the regular AA. Turbo mode using the 14500. As you can see, there's a massive difference in output when you're using the 14500 versus the AA battery. When you're using the 14500, you're getting somewhere in the neighborhood of 500 ANSI lumens, and as you can see from the manufacturer's literature here, with the AA you're getting around 147. Aside from just thinking about the highest mode on this flashlight, the output levels that you get when using a 14500 battery are very useful and functional in my opinion. So when you're running it in moonlight mode, essentially your moonlight goes to the low mode for the AA light. So this is the mode group that I typically will stay centered in, and it's not very hard to change over to the low mode set if you need to. Just tighten and untighten the bezel 3 times if you need some intermediate level of light that you don't have in the moonlight setting. If you're in the market for a small flashlight to carry every day, I really don't think that there are many better choices than this light. You get the performance of a CR123 light in the form factor of a AA light. You get the ability to use those very common standard batteries, and when you're using the 14500 battery, you still retain 3 of 4 modes. So if you can afford this somewhat hefty price on this light of $80 MSRP at the posting of this video, I would highly recommend that you get it. Thank you for watching.